it's Fitting Dragon. We are already on the it's the third week of August. And surprisingly enough, I only have 3 pens ink this month. Yeah, I know, it's very weird coming from me. So today I will show you these 3 pens, and then I also have 2 pens that I have not showed you that I ink on the 30th of July. Alright, let's get to it. The first pen and ink combination that I have here is Shanghai Stationery White Cedar inside Lamy 2000 with now fine 14 karat gold nib. If you've been me for quite a while, you may have noticed that I changed the nib of this Lamy 2000. It used to have the medium 14 karat gold nib, but I do think there is something wrong with the nib. I think it has baby's bottom. It does not fit my writing angle and it keeps skipping for me. I was so annoyed at using that combination. I tried to use very wet ink, so I put the Diamine's Writer's Blood inside, but it really didn't help. I almost gave up and I thought that Lamy 2000 is not the pen for me. However, I had the opportunity to buy an extra spare nib, the fine 14 karat gold nib from Regina Martini. I picked it up at the Dutch pen show 3 months ago. I didn't get the time to change the nib of the Lamy 2000 because right after the Dutch pen show I had a holiday. But now, about 1 month after I came back from my holiday, I finally changed the nib. Boy, oh boy. I think now I understand the hype of Lamy 2000 because I like this nib way better than my previous one. I do think it still have a sweet spot. And so for some people that I see writing with my pen, when their angle of writing is on high, it sometimes skips for them or just not writing that wet for them. But on my writing angle, thankfully with this nib, it's the perfect angle now, so no more hard start, sweet spot for me, which is very great. And with this nib, I find that I can write for a long period of time, which is surprising for me because usually I prefer something that have more texture, if I can say like that. And yeah, I was so surprised. So I used this pen to write, how to say this. Right now, my friend and I doing some kind of a book club and so we read a book and then we tried at least 1 chapter a day, but if the chapter is quite long, then we give it several more days. We put our thoughts for each chapter and just compare each other what we think about the book, and it was fun. And of course, as an opportunity to write more with my pen, I decided to write down my thought and my friend's thought inside my secondary book journal. So it used up quite a lot of the ink in this pen, and yeah, that's how I discovered that I enjoyed writing with this pen, especially that the secondary book journal is using the Yusari paper. If you've been around quite long enough, I complained a lot about Yusari paper, but with this pen and ink combination on that paper as well, it was not that paper, this paper as well. This is Yusari notebook and that Yusari notebook. I'm okay with it. I don't particularly love the paper, but I can handle it. And I can also write long with this pen, which is a surprise considering how heavy it is. I think it's 26, and without the cap, it's 16. Maybe not as heavy, but I do feel it differently on my hand. And yeah, I can say that now I enjoyed my Lamy 2000, which is a huge relief that I didn't make a bad purchase per se, even though I am quite annoyed that I need to buy an extra nib. But it's okay. It's sometimes the things that we do with fountain pens. And as for color comparison, Shanghai Stationery White Cedar is super similar to Kobe Bitter Chocolate. Oh, and I also have this Jinhao 82 with Loom Broad Nib ink with diamond antler. Even though Shanghai Stationery White Cedar is like a brownish that leans more towards yellowish on writing, because the fine nib of this Lamy 2000 is very fine, I couldn't really see the difference of the colors between the two, even though antler in general is a little bit paler and more purplish, but they're way too similar. I usually don't ink two similar inks at the same time, but I don't know what was on my mind when I inked this. I think what happened back then was that I was so tired of choosing inks. I still have quite a long list of backlog, and I decided to just stick with things that I already know. And this Shanghai Stationery White Cedar bottle is like one of the bottle on top of my drawer, so I just grab it and I ink it with it. But it works, and I enjoyed writing with it, so that's fine. That's okay. Alright, the second is the familiar one. I have Pelikan Edelstein Ink of the Year 2023 Rose Quartz, and I feel it inside this beautiful Studyo Agackakan pen with primary manipulation 1 blank in WP2 model of the Studyo Agackakan pen. And in here, I put back my Franklin Christoph medium thick nib, as usually I put the Franklin Christoph medium thick nib in here, but during my holiday I switched it to my newest Wet n Wise pen. But now, because this nib is not a great match to that pen body, I switched it back here again, and I love it so much. I miss this combination. With this ink, it's also a weird choice for me. Again, not weird per se, but more like I, from 2 years ago, will not expect that I will reach out to this ink, because when Pelikan gave this ink at the Pelikan Hub, when I received it, I was very disappointed. It was like, oh, pink, okay, I'm not a fan of pink. And I also am not a fan of pink in general, just because during my childhood, my parents keep giving me pink stuff and like pink dress or pink clothing to wear on, so I got really bored with pink and red. I was very skeptical with this ink, but all of a sudden, 3 weeks ago, I felt like I want a pink, and the first pink that came to my mind was this Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz. So it was quite a funny realization that Rose Quartz has quietly become one of my favorite pink, even though at first I kinda disliking this ink. And as for the ink itself, Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz is not just a regular pink. It has some certain qualities of complexity, although we cannot really see it in writing or even in real life, but it's the color that I guess give you the feeling of nostalgia. And so I enjoyed writing with this so much. I wrote a lot with it, and I should write more. I think, let me just check real quick because I'm curious. Okay, there is still a little bit of ink left, and I will just enjoy every drop of it. Oh, and I just realized here that the blank here looks like mushroom that is cut. And that's the first time I see it that way. I find that with primary manipulation blanks, there are just certain things that you discovered later on. And the same with this pen. I was mesmerized when I saw this. It was at my first touch pen show and my first custom pen and my first big purchase as well, if I can think it that way. I've loved the rest of the swirl, but when I got home, I really dislike this part because it's like greenish and not appetizing at all. But with time, I grew to love, like I even like this section of the pen a lot more than I used to be, because it's very complex around here. So yeah, that's just a random things to think about. Now though, I don't really like this very huge white part, but I can also think of it like milk. And yeah, it's a delicious pen. Okay, back to ink. The Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz in my collection is the closest to Diamine Inkven 2025 Mittens, although Mittens is brighter while Rose Quartz have like a purplish things to it. Oh, and I don't have the bottle with me right now, but if you look at the bottle of Rose Quartz, it looks green on the outside, which is fascinating. I kind of like looking at it that way. It's the kind of ink bottle that will let people guess what color is the ink. Okay, the next one is this, the Good Blue London Blues. I have it inside this Majohn N7. It's a pocket pen, but it has the bigger Smith nib, the number size nib, and I have this in fine. With me choosing this ink, it was because I was quite bored with the lighter inks that I have during the time of inking, and so I thought I really want something very normal, very boring, and even very formal. Like, this feeling was very strong for me, and so I decided to pick up blue black. And on the list of ink samples that I still have on my backlog, the Good Blue London Blues is the only one, I think, blue black that I have in there. And so I just pick it up and I ink it. It was a very normal ink, so I have not as much thing to talk about, other than sometimes there are just times when I feel like having just a perfectly normal ink, and that's totally fine. When my heart says so, then I will follow what my heart says. As for color comparison, the Good Blue London Blue is super very close to Rowan Cleaner Salix. The Good Blue is slightly greener, but on writing, I don't think you can really spot the difference between the two. They are very similar. This is the combination that I have not inked. Okay, not the combination. I have not inked the pen for about 5 months by now. I have Papier Plume Southern Nights inside my Kaweco Sports, Iridescent Pearl, the original, and I have a double broad nib in it. For me, it is very weird to say Kaweco Sport, because usually when I say Kaweco, it's almost always with Kaweco Perkeo. So whenever I try to say Kaweco Sport today, my mouth always defaults to Perkeo. And this pen is one of my earliest pen, and it has a very gorgeous color. However, the nib that I bought with it was a medium, and it was so dry that no matter what I did with it, I couldn't get it to work. Having a broad nib in a double broad, it is a very good change that I made last year, but that still does not make me use this pen so often, because sadly, or lucky me if I can say, the Kaweco Sport is way too small for me. Okay, I have a small hand, so I can write with this pen without posting it, no problem. But the grip section is just so small for me that I'm not reaching for it to ink. Even though it is very good with shimmer ink, I use my Pen Talisman and my Chin House more than this one. I really should ink this more often, just because I love the colorway of this iridescent ball. And as for the ink that I have here, I have Papier Plume Southern Nights. This is a shimmer ink, and I got a sample from my American friends who were visiting a few months ago. And this is the last of the 3 inks that they gave me a sample of. The reason why I had not inked this for the longest time was because it is a shimmer ink, and I don't prefer to ink shimmer ink because I don't like needing to clean them. So this Papier Plume Southern Nights clocked once on this pen, but I thankfully don't need to really do crazy things with it. So what I do with clock pen usually is just like to hold it like this, and then to just like do it like this, or just one time like this, and that's fine. It writes nicely again. So that makes me wonder, Papier Plume Sultan's Night Shimmer ink, how big the particle is. Because let's say the closest ink that I have in my collection is surprisingly Robert Oster's Sterling Silver, which is also a shimmer ink. But I remembered when I inked this Robert Oster Sterling Silver, I had so much hard time with it because the ink particles are not the ink, the shimmer particles are big. And it is also a part of the shimmy and shimmers, shake and shimmy, something like the Robert Oster shimmer ink line. And almost all of the inks that I tried from that line clogged for me. So this Papier Plume Sultan Nights definitely behaves better and clog less. So if you like the color of Robert Oster Sterling Silver, you can also try Papier Plume Sultan Nights if you can get it where you are. Because I do think I cannot get it here in Europe myself, and so I'm glad that I get to experience writing with this and trying this ink. Yeah, that's it. For the base color, I think out of my collection, the Mont Blanc Jean Austen Amber is the closest. And I have another shimmer ink here, Chuck Herban Stormy Gray. And Stormy Gray is blacker ink base wise, and it also have the yellow shimmer, which makes this looks greener compared to these Sultan Nights. Now that I look at this is so gorgeous. All this shimmer looks like stars. I think I will get distracted looking at this, just swirling around the paper. So let's get this away. The last pen and ink combination that I have for you today is Ferris Wheel Press Grape Ice Pop inside this Pilot Kakuno girl with a fine nib. The girl is not looking as pretty today because of the ink on the nib. Okay, I'm having a big confused face right now because this pen has been giving me the darker version of the Grape Ice Pop. So it is looking very dark. It looks like a real grape juice. I am not 100% sure it was because of the evaporation, because of the hot weather, or what. Because I kind of knew that Pilot Kakuno have any kind of evaporation. So what we see on paper is not always the real color of the ink. But this has been, I think, the worst evaporation that has ever happened to me inside this Pilot Kakuno. And it's so dark. I mean, I don't mind with it at all, and my other inks that I have inked right now are on the lighter side. Okay, not all of them, but a lot of them are on the lighter side, so I'm fine having dark inks. But at the same time, it's also quite disappointing because what I was expecting is this color with this like a lighter purple, but what I get is this darker purple. So I don't know how I feel about this inking. It's more towards I don't really like it, but because I have it inked anyway, then I will just use to write. If we only look at the color comparison on this swatch card, Ferris Wheel Press Grape Ice Pop is the closest to Monteverde Rose Noir. But if we look at the writing that is on this paper and clearly looking evaporated, I do think the closest that I can think out of, no, not out of, on top of my mind is the Diamine Jameson, which is also one of my favorite color from Diamine, and I have lots of favorite in Diamine. So yeah, these are all the 6. These are all the 6 pens. No, I only have 5. Okay, this needs to go out. This is the 5 pens that I have inked. What do you think of this? I realized that this colorway is quite boring and it's not like summer at all, but sometimes we just need to roll with it. I have a homework now, which is to ink some more pens with some more happier color because it is still summer and summer is going away soon, so I have to enjoy it to its fullest. Okay, question for you. What should I ink now? Let me know and see you on the next one. Bye bye!